the vast majority of people are actually a large language model. They're an AI version of what a human being could be, because what in essence people usually do is they hear stuff and they internalize it if they hear it often enough, and then they have this weird identity with that thing that they hear, and through subconscious processes it becomes their own opinion. And I lived like this for a long, long time. And I remember how it used to be when I heard stuff and I would just automatically assume that this was correct. I couldn't even describe it. It was like an unconscious force that's super convincing that tells you this is true because everybody says it and I've heard it here and I heard it over there. So therefore it must be true. And also it feels true because that's what marketing does to you. It makes you believe. It's like Inception. It makes you believe that you came up with that stuff by yourself. Like that's from the movie where you go into the dream and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it feels so convincing that you cannot even comprehend anybody going against that belief. And you automatically go on your moral high horse and be like, wait, what? You don't think the blah, blah, blah is real? The thing that everybody thinks is real is like it. The problem with this dynamic is, I talked a lot about groupthink before, but like the problem with this is it is so convincing that basically what you're doing, if you argue with somebody or you try to like get at the truth, you're basically reciting parts of sentences that you heard somewhere else and you string them together and you think somehow this will be convincing enough for people to believe you. But actually, if you're really honest with yourself, and that's used to be me for the majority of my life, by the way, and it probably still is in a lot of areas, but what actually happens is you're not actually able to think at the thing that you're trying to talk about. You're literally AFK in your brain, repeating stuff that you heard. And that's actually also if you talk to somebody that just repeats whatever is the narrative right now, it is almost, they're so predictable. You already know what they're about to say, and there's not going to be a single unique individual thought in what they're saying. So I'm just saying, like, the same way AI is not actually conscious, at least not the language models, right? The same way the majority of people are not actually conscious, at least about the main topics that we're discussing, at least about the stuff that's very dominant in the groupthink. People have not the ability to actually be conscious about it. I mean, they actually have technically the ability, but it requires a lot of like effort and a lot of like uncomfortable feelings to deal with in the process. And it's also very hard to go against something with your brain that everybody else goes along. So in that sense, I think also, by the way, as a side note, I think AI also is kind of dangerous in that way, because in some aspects it's really, really, really good. And in some aspects you can really see the bias or the group think that basically translates into AI. Just because like the majority of people have a certain opinion about something, the AI will collect the data and just recite that opinion. And you have to actually do a lot of mental and verbal gymnastics to get the AI to actually admit that there's maybe a fault here. But the default, at default, you're never really going to get there. And same with human beings. And in that way, I want to say that you have to really, really, really be honest with yourself to realize or to understand whether you're actually conscious, whether you actually use your own God-given brain or instinct or whatever for things to actually think about things and try to deeply understand it, and instead of just repeating slogans, repeating like the same word phrases that everybody else is repeating. And I think that's like a modern day virus almost, that people lost the ability to actually think and actually be like, hold on a minute, like what does it actually mean? What's behind this? And it's incredibly hard and taxing. That's why nobody does, and everybody is so busy. And I totally understand that. I'm just trying to like point that out as somebody who once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It's kind of like my point here. So anyways, I'm going to leave it at that piece.